Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. Time for another episode of our off-season content. And with me today, we are doing a quarterback start, bench, cut special. So I've got a spin the wheel format where I've got all 32 starting quarterbacks and also another backup just to make it in threes, where we try and decide between us start, bench, cut between these three quarterbacks that get randomly picked. With me today, I've got a returning guest. He's our resident Cardinals fan, been on the podcast a lot of times before. Back with us today is Oliver Kent. Ollie, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Thank you for having me on again.
Pleasure's all mine, mate. Always good having you on. And looking forward to this episode. A bit different to normal, but looking forward to seeing what kind of content we give out. Because other than me and you, I want to say a couple of months ago, we had a big debate on WhatsApp in private chat. Just sort of, we disagreed on a lot of different. I think Brock Purdy was the main sort of common denominator.
Yeah, and I think as well it was probably pre-draft as well. So now that we've got some more in the mix, it makes it a bit more interesting.
Yeah, and that's why we did originally wait until after the draft was done, because I think we all knew that there'd be a Caleb Williams involved, there'd probably Jaden Daniels, and now we're past the point now of trades as well, so we know most teams who's going to start. I did see some wild stories last night of Zach Wilson.
Yes, I did too.
Best starter in training, which I did a TikTok. I tried to do one based on something else, but it reminds me of the scene where I think it's Baker. I never watched it, but the guy goes, "You can't keep getting away with this." And I feel like if Zach Wilson has another year as a starter in the NFL, and there's some people who have no chances and they get cut after a couple of years, never return. It seems crazy that he's just keeps getting chance after chance. He's not in this video today. I was thinking, do I add in the extra quarterback and do I make it Zach Wilson? But I think there's more chance of Michael Penix being a long-term starter than Zach Wilson. So that's why I chose him. So Falcons are the one team where we've got multiple quarterbacks. For everyone else, it is the same. So we're going to start as a mean to go on. I'm going to get the board open now. So our first lot is going to be, I think it's Brock Purdy. It's Brock Purdy straight away, straight off the cuff. It is Brock Purdy.
Nice.
That is a crazy coincidence that the guy we talk about the most, and he is the first guy. So you've got Brock Purdy. It looks like, it's between McCarthy and Rodgers. Okay, Rodgers is the next one. So we've got Aaron Rodgers and Brock Purdy. And then finally, our third quarterback to choose from is, we've missed out on Bill Cosby. It's going to be CJ Stroud. So the three choices are Brock Purdy, Aaron Rodgers, and CJ Stroud. Ollie, over to you. How are you playing this?
I think from my perspective, for the whole program, I'm going to be very much like recency and what we're looking for moving forward, right? And so for me, it's got to be start CJ Stroud. I think he outplayed Purdy last year. I think when you consider what he had at Houston over what Brock's walked into at the 49ers, and I guess the best comparison is if you had the same team and you put all three in, who would you want? So for me, I'm gonna start CJ. I'm gonna bench Brock, and I'm probably gonna cut Rodgers because I think after this year, this is probably him done. I reckon, and especially coming off the back of that torn Achilles, it'll be interesting. But that's for me, CJ, and then bench Brock, and Aaron he's gonna have to go, I'm afraid.
I've got the exact same as you. I do feel that, obviously Rodgers is no doubt one of the best quarterbacks to ever played the game, one of the most naturally talented quarterbacks ever. I mean, the way he throws the ball, it's technique like no one else, really.
Oh, yeah.
But everything you said is completely right. Aaron Rodgers is, I believe he's 40 now. He's missed the entire of last season. We don't know whether he can come back and be the same quarterback, albeit I know if Rodgers is half the quarterback as he has been, it's still, a decent level quarterback. But I just feel like we just don't know whether he's going to be the same again. And as I saw the footage recently in training camp where he had some problem with his foot, or might be in his Achilles or ankle. I can't think what part, some part of his lower body anyway. And it could be a case that you have to worry that could be a year again where he struggles like his last year at Green Bay, or if he doesn't play at all. So, adding all the controversy he brought off the field towards the end of his time in Green Bay, all the necessary drama he brings, with maybe some of his off the field views. I think 10 years ago you probably could have let that go, a bit like Luis Suarez. Liverpool fans like myself, we did let it go because we knew how good he was. And I feel like Rodgers, you could have done that years ago.
I think with Rodgers, I think just in general with Rodgers is 10 years ago, you wouldn't even be having a conversation of who to, it would be automatic. Do you know what I mean? But it's like you say, situation where we're at now, you've got risers, you've got fallers. And I think he's probably at the faller side and probably lower down the faller side.
Absolutely. And I think look at the upside of CJ Stroud. I think Purdy has probably shown me more so far in a big game. You look at that, the Packers game and the Lions game, the comebacks he had, and it felt a bit like Tom Brady in terms of that sort of ability to take a team from behind. And both games were quite big deficits and bring them back. But you look at CJ Stroud in his first year as an NFL player, he goes and does that. I think absolutely. I can't think of another quarterback, apart from maybe Mahomes, where in their first year as a starter, they're probably seen as top 5 quarterback in the league. And I think Stroud, for me, I'd have him 5th personally. We are going to do an episode in the next few weeks with Sam Moore, our 3rd installment of our quarterback rankings. And it's a little bit of a spoiler. Stroud will be 5th in my list because I think that he's just shown me a lot of things. And I know I'm bringing out the hate again, but he showed me in 1 year a lot more in the playoffs than Tua has ever shown me in his time in any big game. So Stroud, he seemed to have that mentality in big games. And for me, I think it's a clear starter. So we will move on to our second lot of a bench start and cut. Hopefully we'll have more of a contentious one this time. We'll try and have some different opinions. Hopefully it's not all nice and not all Switzerland. Hopefully we'll have some the debating topics. Baker Mayfield is first out of the tracks because Buccaneers quarterback had a great year in 2023. Should have really been comeback player of the year, in my opinion. So we got Baker Mayfield covered. It looks like it is Stafford or Wilson. It's going to be Matthew Stafford, who is a second choice. And then finally, the third choice, once it spins. This website is very slow. It's a bit buggy, but we're getting there. So we've got we've got Matthew Stafford, we've got Joe Burrow is the last quarterback as well as Baker Mayfield. So to the Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford, and who's the third one? Joe Burrow. So for me, straight away, Joe Burrow started for me. I think personally,
see, that's interesting. That's interesting because I think it's a lot more closer than you think. I think the easy one is cut Baker. Right, not to say that Baker doesn't deserve to be playing in the league and be a starter in the league, but he's just not in the echelon of the other two. I really think, and it pains me as a Cardinal fan, I really think Stafford is still in like sort of that top 5 category. I really do. I know we've just had the conversation about Rodgers and age and things like that, but you look at things like longevity, and we've just had the conversation with Rodgers and how we've sort of put him in that position because it's about where he's at in his age and what he's doing at the moment. Joe Burrow is 1 year on, 1 year off, right? And you can't stay hot with that. He's obviously one of those candidates in the league that is an MVP kind of guy. Like he can do what Stafford can do. He can definitely reach that ceiling. But I just feel like if I had a Super Bowl roster this year and I was betting man, I'd probably go Stafford. I really would. I probably would. Yeah, I really would. I think I would take Stafford. And again, like I get it. He's gone to the Super Bowl, right? Joe Burrow. He's done it. But even just that recency, who Stafford won his Super Bowl, right? There's a direct matchup there between the pair of them. And then it's like, what, it's a, what have you done lately for me? Right now, obviously, we're having a conversation about you need someone for the next 10 years. Fine, it's Joe Burrow. But if I was going to go into next season, as we are in the offseason, I'm going to take Stafford over Burrow. So I would start Stafford, I'd bench Burrow, and I'd cut Baker.
That's interesting. I personally bench Stafford and cut Baker. I love Baker. I've been one of his
I think he's great.
defenders. I love the guy. I love his aura. I love his personality. And I think that I don't think he's ever going to be a elite quarterback, but I think, he showed it this year. And I think, even though I think we all wanted the Lions to win that game and make the Super Bowl, part of me was a bit gutted for Baker Mayfield because I think he's. I would have him in Miami over maybe not, but I do really like him.
I don't think you're outrageous for saying that. I mean, I would go as far to say that Baker Mayfield is just a slightly less successful Brock Purdy. Like I really would. I think when you put Baker in that Shanahan system with all those weapons, I don't think you get two dissimilar results. I really don't. Like, he's obviously good enough to be a starter in the league, as is someone like a Brock Purdy. He's, obviously got the arm talent and stuff like that. There's question marks about the intangibles with Baker, but I think he's probably answered those at this point in his career. I don't think there's a massive discrepancy between the likes of Brock Purdy and the Baker Mayfields of the world. I really don't. In the same way that if you're looking at echelons and where people are in sort of tiers within the league or whatever, Joe Burrow and Matt Stafford are probably in the same one. But for me, it's what have you done lately? And again, Joe Burrow, I love him. I'm a LSU Tigers fan, and I enjoyed that run that we had in the championship. But at the end of the day, like, he made of glass, right? You've got to be, if you want to be that franchise guy, you've got to be able to consistently do it. And for me, I'd put my money with Stafford. I really would.
But is it because how bad the O-line is? I mean, he's got the record for the most sacked quarterback in any playoffs run.
But I think at the end of the day, and like so two people have got sort of two lines of thought when it comes to things like O-line playing, sacks particularly, right? You can argue, very plainly on the surface, O-line's job is to protect the QB. He's been sacked. The O-line must have done something wrong, right? Okay. A lot of people feel like sacks are actually more indicative of QB play, right? Holding the ball too long, not hitting their reads. The thing is with the problem with stats is every stat is irrelevant until you actually turn on the tape, ultimately, right? And especially in stats that are quite difficult to quantify, like, like O-line play and things like that. So people just assume instantly that's it. You look at it, and I think that there's a meme around the time about Jamar Chase and that argument team taking Chase and Penei Sewell, and it just so happened that when they got to the Super Bowl, Chase was open and he couldn't get the ball off because he was sacked. But again, he's going up against Aaron Donald, and like, again, people are going to go, "Oh yeah, the O-line, like, it's Aaron Donald." Like, I don't care if it's the Eagles O-line from their heydays. Like, it's still Aaron Donald, right? Okay, arguably like a top 5 defensive player of all time, realistically. So I just don't necessarily buy into that. I think there's a lot worse O-lines in the league, right? I think, name me a couple of guys on the Rams O-line.
Good point.
There you go. That's what I mean. Like,
back in the day, Whitworth.
But again, that's back in the day. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is what I mean, though. Is like, there are so many of these things that people like to throw around, and it's a discourse thing, isn't it? It's what's relevant at the time, what people are talking about at the time, and like the narrative that gets driven. Like, I'm telling you, like, what is the difference between the Rams O-line and the Bengals O-line? I'm really seriously.
Well, to be fair, you look at that comparison between Burrow and Stafford in the Super Bowl. I don't recall Stafford getting sacked anywhere near as much as Burrow was, and Burrow obviously tied back with Roger Staubach.
And again, I think that probably comes down more to one side's got Aaron Donald and the other doesn't.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, to be fair, we all like. I think it's pretty much. It's not even a debate now that Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. Burrow, I believe, has got the most wins against him. I don't know where Tom Brady fits in, but of course, I mean, multiple times the Bengals will duel against the best quarterback, and I think that's down to Burrow. And I think that you put a fully healthy Burrow in a big game, in a big moment, there's no one I'd rather want than him, because Stafford has had Calvin Johnson with the Lions, a great weapon. Didn't make the Super Bowl or even the playoffs, really.
That was that Lions team, right? And that was a perennially poor Lions team, like infamously poor. It took Stafford 1 year of going to a better team, and suddenly he is what he is. Do you know what I mean? Like,
could you argue it took Burrow 1 year of having an elite receiver and being healthy in Jamar Chase to make a Super Bowl as well, where no one at all.
But I don't think it's one receiver. I would argue it's not one receiver, right? Because you look at they've got Higgins, and I can't remember who the other one off the top of my head is, but there you go, Tyler Boyd. That's arguably three. That trio is arguably like the best trio in the league, right? And then you add in when they had someone like a Joe Mixon or whatever out the backfield as well. Like, no doubt. Obviously, the O-line was poor. All the money was going into the weapons, right? Okay.
Cup, Woods, and Odell Beckham as well for the Rams. They had a good trio.
Odell Beckham on his retirement tour does not count, right?
Hey, he was Super Bowl MVP before the injury. He was on pace for that.
Yeah, just because he blew out on when he was on there. I mean, Cup is obviously Cup, right? Okay, and there's probably, but again, like you look at it, right? People weren't on Cup when he was drafted. Yeah, okay. How much has Matthew Stafford and Kyle Shanahan gone in, and Sean McVay gone into him being a somebody? The same with Puka Nacua, right? You know, no one knew about Puka Nacua until last year, right? And who's slinging in the rock? Yeah, I just think for me, I would take Stafford, and I think the matchup speaks for itself. Like you can't have you've got the argument of Mahomes is the best, and when they've played him, they've got the most wins. Who cares when they've actually played each other, Stafford and Burrow? One of them's come out on top. So by that logic, it's the same thing.
Well, I think we'll have to move on because we will be here all day otherwise. We'll have to agree to disagree. But do let us know in our DMs and our socials who you'd have over Stafford and Burrow, and let us know in the comments or DMs who you'd rather take, and we'll try and have some sort of vote and see who the public and the listeners decide on. Right, so next three we're going to give. I'm hoping we get some rookies in here soon enough. I'm hoping we get Penix and Cousins in the same start bench cut. So first one is Trevor Lawrence. He is the first one out of the door. So the second one is... we've had a lot of first overall picks so far. Joe Burrow, we've had Matthew Stafford, we've had Trevor Lawrence. Looks like it's Jordan Love. So we've got Jordan Love, we've got Trevor Lawrence, and finally, our third quarterback to pick from this time in our start bench cut is... it's a man himself. It is Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew, of course, he is now the Raiders starting quarterback, acquired after a season with the Colts last year. So this
probably one of the easier ones, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you go first on this one. I mean, I think it goes out saying Gardner Minshew we cut.
I would actually disagree. I'd have. No, I'm joking. No, I think for me, Gardner's obviously going to have to go. And then probably between Trevor and Jordan Love, I'm going to have to go Jordan Love. I think again, like it's a what have you done lately for me thing. I think there's the problem with they've both got their cases actually. Like again, it's this kind of discourse thing and the conversation around it and the pressure that comes with it. Like you got Jordan Love and he's the heir, supreme to Aaron Rodgers, and he has performed well once he's been in that system for a little bit and taking it on. And, Green Bay's by no means been like this powerhouse roster. There's a reason that Aaron Rodgers said, see you later, give it to him, let him have a go. And then you look at someone like Trevor Lawrence and the pressure that comes with it. Like, not only is he a first overall pick, he's touted as the can't miss generational. Like, he is the guy. Like, more so than like a Caleb Williams or anyone like that. Like, everyone said he's the perfect prospect, and he's had that since high school. But again, it's that what have you done for me lately? And I just think if you had to pay all of them now, right? Say all their contracts were wiped and they were all asking for extensions, you'd give the most money to Jordan Love, in my opinion. And so I would start Love, I'd bench Lawrence, and I'd cut Minshew. Yeah,
I'm the same as you. I think it's very close between Lawrence and Love, because I think they both had periods that have been very good. But I just think that even though Lawrence had probably a better overall season in terms of Love only really played well the final 9 games or so, 8 games of the season, and then the playoff game against the Cowboys. And Lawrence probably had a better season overall the year when the Jags made the playoffs. But at the same time, I don't know. I think something about Love just makes me. I think I would get more excited watching Love than Lawrence. And I like Lawrence, and I think he's a very good quarterback. But I just think that from what Love's done, Lawrence everyone knew Lawrence would be good. Everyone knew he'd be this guy that'd be good. Whereas Love came into the league and he was seen as the guy that annoyed Aaron Rodgers basically. And I think that he, even though Lawrence has won a playoff game against the Chargers, he did throw 4 picks and basically only won because of a collapse by the Chargers defense. Whereas you look at Love, no one wins that game. a few had the Packers winning, but not many saw Packers as favourites against the Cowboys. And he goes in and tells them a new one, basically. So, yeah, for me, I have love over Lawrence, but I'm not also against if it was Lawrence over love as well.
You're not gonna lose any sleep if someone says, "Oh, you've got Trevor Lawrence to lead your franchise for the next couple of years." You
absolutely
wouldn't lose any sleep. Yeah.
We'll move on to next week. That was a fairly easy one. Not really much contention with those three. So our next three are going to be, it looks like we got our first rookie potentially on the board, or is it moving? No, it is. JJ McCarthy is first off the board. You could argue Sam Darnold may start, but I think McCarthy is going to be the QB1 by the end of the season. So he is the first rookie we've had off the board. We've just missed Caleb Williams there. So we've got Anthony Richardson, of course, almost basically the rookie after only playing 5 games last year. Another player with a lack of NFL experience, really. And then finally, our third guy is going to be another rookie from last year. It's Bryce Young. So you've got Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, and JJ McCarthy. For me, I think this is easy for me, really easy. I think I would cut McCarthy because I've simply never seen him play a game. I don't watch college football.
I'd have to agree.
Yeah, I think that's given. And I think over Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson, even though it was a worse situation for Bryce Young than Richardson, I think I've seen a lot more to get excited about. And also, I am a Gators fan, and he's the one guy that actually, I was too young for the Tebow sort of craze at Florida, but he's the guy that made me want to watch Gators and stay up to watch him live. So for me, Richardson is always a guy I'll back, have him as a starter, cut JJ McCarthy, and we'll bench Bryce Young.
No, I completely agree. I think outside of maybe like a Caleb Williams and like someone who's a borderline backup in the league already, it's hard to go against someone who's already played in the league. I mean, look, Young had obviously an absolute rotter, right, of a year. But again, you put JJ McCarthy in Carolina last year, I think you're probably getting the exact same sort of outcome. Do you know what I mean? I'm really high on Richardson. Like, I think he's really, really talented. I think he's probably going to have sort of the same issues as like Cam Newton in the sense of, I know it's quite a lazy comparison, similar body types and all those kind of things, but their style of play, he is a runner. He is going to take punishment. He is a big guy. He's going to take a lot of hits from your DNs and edge rushers and tackles, and they're not going to go particularly low on him. Like, they're going to give him some shots in the ribs, and and even when he does go and he goes running, DBs are going to go low on him because otherwise they'll lose. So he's going to take a lot of punishment, and he needs to stay healthy. But I'm super hard on him. I thought even those 5 games, he was so good to watch, so fun to watch. Certainly better than a Bryce Young was to watch all year. And I think we'll just have to see what comes out with JJ McCarthy. I think something that speaks to JJ McCarthy is the deal that Justin Jefferson's just signed. He doesn't sign that unless he's happy with the QB play. I personally don't feel like, even if that is Darnold, that is Jefferson, McCarthy. I think you're absolutely spot on. I think McCarthy, whether he's seen week 1 or not, is probably up in the air. But certainly by week 17 or 18, he will be the guy at the helm, bar any injury.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that as well, I don't think Jefferson, he would sacrifice his future if he's not sure what's happening. So I think, get him in.
He'd get that money anywhere. I think he'd get that deal anywhere. Anyone who could afford to do that deal, he would get that deal, right?
Absolutely.
So I don't, he's obviously undisputedly the best non-skill player, non-QB player in the league. And I just think you're actually right. Everyone would pay that deal for him. So he's got to be pretty content with where he's at in terms of QB play in Minnesota.
Some incoming buyers alert. I would have Tyreek Hill the best non-quarterback. Of course I'm going to say that. But yeah, I think Jefferson's very good, but I would have Tyreek Hill over him just because. Yeah, I don't know. It's just because I think he plays for my team, and I think I'm always going to back him. But
of course.
Yeah, of course. Right, move on to the next 3 because that was, again, an uncontentious 3. This one, I think, could cause some debate. Lamar Jackson is first off the board. He's certainly a quarterback that does bring some mixed opinion. I'm interested in what your thoughts are on the Lamar Jackson, Ollie. Next of another quarterback that splits opinion, Jalen Hurts is off the board as well. Quite good duo so far. Looking like could be quite an elite trio here until we get probably someone rubbish. It was almost Mahomes, but it is Jaden Daniels. So Jaden Daniels, we've got, my memory's completely lost me now. Lamar Jackson and
Jalen Hurts.
Again, I think it's pretty easy.
The bottom is anyway. Yeah,
very very easy. And then Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts. I think Lamar Jackson for me gets it because he's a 2-time MVP. Hurts so far is a one-season wonder. So yeah, I think that's very easy.
I think the thing is though as well is like it helps that they're kind of similar. There's similar criticism both in terms of, you know, I think there's probably something that people need to get their head around, which is just that you've obviously got QB play and then you've got like football player, right? And I think that probably is sort of where like the likes of Lamar and Jalen, you know, fit in. And I think like you look at it, the reality is I would have Jalen Hurts at 10 less TDs this year, right? Just because of things like the tush push, that's not necessarily going to be an option anymore. I think people are starting to figure them out a little bit. I think Sirianni's a bit stale. Like you look at it and like it's very high school, the offense. Like it is like, you know, AJ Brown is better than your guy. We also have Smith on the outside as well. We've got some good tight end play and the O-line's great. And it's like, it's almost the polar opposite of, you know, kind of what like Lamar's got, which is who's the last great Ravens receiver? Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, this year they had Boston College. Yes, Zay Flowers. He had a great year, really good year. He's probably going to go really go off next year as well. But you know, what have the Ravens always been about? We're going to run it down your throat. They've got Derrick Henry now, right? They're not going to go away from that. It's going to be power football. It's going to be stretch you when we need to. And then Lamar can just do crazy things with the ball in his hands as well. So, yeah, Jaden Daniels, rookie, makes it completely easy. Off he goes. It'd be interesting to see if he holds up well as well physically. Like all three of those guys are guys that you could easily sort of just say by mid-season, yeah, they're on IR. You know, Lamar Jackson's been snapped in half. Jaden Daniels has been snapped in half. And Jalen Hurts has, you know, been snapped in half as well. Like they all obviously have running games, is quite a big part of their game. Lamar and Jaden are obviously like quite lean guys anyway. Jaden's got a bit more bulk to him. But if you turn around to me in week 13 and went, oh yeah, all three of those guys are on IR, I wouldn't be falling out my chair. I'd understand that.
Yeah, it's all, you know, that is a problem with mobile quarterbacks, is that you have got that, you know, it's a reason why running back, the position is devalued so much over the years.
Completely.
Because
100%.
Yeah, the hits are just way too, even in the time where they're trying to, you know, make it safer for quarterbacks and people can't maybe hit as much from the defensive side of things, you know, it's still, you know, a running back still position where it is, you know, you are probably retiring a lot earlier than other positions. And I think that if you got a quarterback that does running back sort of duties almost,
absolutely,
I think it's worrying. That's why it's why Cam Newton didn't last until the age of Tom Brady, absolutely. And that's why you know, Michael Vick didn't last that long in his career. I also know off the field stuff meant, but he retired fairly early for a quarterback, especially these days. And I do feel
RG3 is another one. Like, you know, like we can sit here and it's not exclusive to these guys. I think that's something that really does sort of bother me, is when people make the lazy thing of, oh, well, they're a running QB, so they're not as good a QB, or they're going to get hurt or whatever. Like, you know, we've just had a conversation earlier about Joe Burrow's availability, and, you know, he's hardly exactly on the same, you know, level as like Jalen and those guys in terms of their running ability, is he? Like, he's a scrambler, don't get me wrong, but he's not going to rip one for 90 yards and just embarrass people. And it's the same with like the Anthony Richardsons, but like these guys, they're one play away ultimately from potentially being out, right? Okay. Outside of some freak stuff. So I think, look, Lamar has got 2 MVPs to his name. It's hard not to put him at the top. I think Jalen's probably got some answers to do. You know, I could easily see someone saying he's the same as Baker Mayfield. right? And Baker eclipses him next year because Jalen just doesn't have as good a year. And then we'll just see what comes out of Jalen Daniels. I will say for a second overall pick, for a second overall pick, I think Jalen Daniels has got not a ton of pressure on him, to be honest with you. I think people understand what a dumpster Washington is. God help him, he's got Cliff Kingsbury as his OC. And as a Cardinal fan, it's going to be interesting. But yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it can go one or two ways. It can go, the Cliff Kingsbury who was there with Patrick Mahomes and Texas Tech, or it could go, as you said, the way of when he had Kyler Murray as his quarterback. Yeah. I think it's a bit like Russian roulette with Cliff Kingsbury. You don't know what Kingsbury you're going to get. But yeah, no, I think with Daniels, I think the fans are just happy there's no Daniel Snyder. I think it's just almost like we don't really care what happens this season. We've just got there's no Dan Snyder anymore. The only way is up from here.
Yeah. And look, he'll ride that. Like he'll ride the back of that. If he has even half a decent year and the franchise just gets in better shape as he moves forward, he'll be the face of that rebuild. As an organization, he'll do wonders, and he'll be able to ride that with the fans and the organization completely.
Yeah, should be an exciting time for them. So we're going to move on to our next lot of three. We've still got Cousins and Penix. We've still got the chance of having both of them in the same trio. But just as I say that, he has just turned up. Michael Penix Jr. is the first quarterback in this three. So next up, so you got two out of 24 chance, whatever it is now, to get Cousins in this as well. It looks like it is to get the best in the league right now. It is Patrick Mahomes to go alongside Michael Penix, which I think that is going to be an easy one for everyone involved. Where he goes, but who is joining this list as well? Oh, it's tight between Prescott and Allen, and it is Josh Allen. So we've got Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and we've got Michael Penix Jr. I think that really can probably be moved on, right?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I think the only thing I will say on that is I'm a lot lower that on Josh Allen and Penix than I think most people are, right? And I know you've obviously alluded to if Cousins and Penix came up in the same one, it's an easy one for me. It's Kirk. I think I don't know what the Falcons are doing in that front office. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, there's a lot of things that go into that Penix selection that doesn't make a lot of sense. Obviously, like you sign Kirk, okay, that's fine. Right, so you want someone for the future. So bear in mind, Cousins' deal is only guaranteed for 2 years. So if they wanted to move off him after 2 years and they've groomed Penix for that spot, that makes a lot of sense. That's absolutely fine. But then why invest all that money into Cousins and not give him help in the form of a weapon or whatever? It doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Not to mention that Penix will be something like 28 when his rookie contract runs out, which is just absurd. I'm a lot lower on Josh Allen than I think a lot of other people are. Like, don't be wrong. Like, yeah, he's really talented or whatever, but this year is probably going to say a lot of it, right? That Bills roster is gutted. Like, they've lost, I think it's like 9 starters on both sides of the ball. It's going to be a new look. It's going to be a lot different. Not sure there's a lot of star power there. Obviously, they've lost Diggs. They brought in Keon Coleman. I don't think he's going to necessarily light the world on fire. Be interesting to see. But, for me, I'm just slightly lower on Allen than I think people are. And obviously Mahomes is Mahomes.
Yeah, I'm big on Allen. I think that people always have to bring up the interceptions, but Stafford had the most interceptions in the league the year they won the Super Bowl. And I believe Tom Brady or might be Mahomes had it the year he won it as well. But I think, everyone loves to laud Brett Favre, but one thing he was known for was for interceptions as well. And I think that whilst I think Josh Allen can be careless with the ball at times, I think you look at him in most big games he plays in, most of them, the Bills are thereabouts because of him, and it's normally the defense that lets them down. You look at that Chiefs game last year, or the Chiefs game when they lost, for me, the best game of all time that I've ever seen.
Was it the fake punt or something they did? And oh yeah, there was some poor play.
I can't remember that, but I remember just Josh Allen was always given a chance. And you look at
and you're right. Look, you're so right. Like, you always have a chance with Josh Allen, and like, obviously, if Pat Mahomes wasn't in this conversation, then he'd obviously probably be the top I don't know what your rankings are, and I don't know if you want to spoil another one, but like he probably floats around that top 5 mark, like realistically.
Oh, absolutely.
But, I'm probably just not quite as high on him as I think maybe other people are.
Yeah, I think you look at likes of Kirk Cousins, Dak, Tua are starting to get into this thing now where the narrative around their career is they can't win the big one. Whereas Josh Allen, whilst he hasn't made a Super Bowl, he's only made one title game, he always gives them a chance. It's never normally his fault.
The other thing here, and sort of the elephant in the room, is like the AFC is stacked when it comes to QB talent, like compared to the NFC. Like if Josh Allen is in the NFC, he's probably gone to a couple of Super Bowls.
Yeah,
and he's probably still loses to Mahomes or whatever. But like, you know what I mean? Like you're gonna. We've gone through already a load of QBs or whatever, and the majority of like the elite top talent is over in the AFC side, and they all just happen to be in Mahomes' shadow as well. Like, but there are some quality guys in the AFC, like even the guys we've discussed so far: Stroud, Mahomes, Allen, Lawrence, Burrow. Like that's just 5 rattled off, quickly. Like, who's competing with that in the NFC? Like the fact that like Jared Goff is probably like a top 3 QB in the NFC is disgraceful when you consider the talent in the AFC. And it's just something that people don't consider. Like if Mahomes doesn't exist, what does the NFL look like?
And you can say the same thing when Brady. Although if Brady wasn't there, you'd just say, Manning won about 7 Super Bowls. That's what happened with Brady. Whereas it's not good. And I feel like
I agree.
If I was a quarterback, I'm torn between would I just move to the NFC because I got more chance of winning a Super Bowl, more chance of making one to avoid Mahomes, but at the same time,
still got to play him.
Yeah, exactly. So do you want to be in the AFC and just say if you can beat him in the AFC
Championship? You just did it one game earlier. Yeah, you just did it one game earlier.
Yeah, exactly. And you could then have more of a chance of winning a Super Bowl. So I'm not sure what I do. Because I look at Aaron Rodgers, why he left the NFC to go to the AFC, but that was something I did think about back then. But yeah, I think certainly if you beat Mahomes, you probably win the Super Bowl. Although
you've got to win your division, right? You've got to win your division first of all. That's step one. And is he better than Tua? Yep. Is he better than New England and the Jets options? Yeah. So end of. And then you look at the wider picture, but I'm probably just slightly low on him. Like he's obviously talented. I don't know as much.
Okay. Well, I've accidentally pressed spin, so we've already got our next quarterback coming up. Justin Herbert is our first one, so he is off the board.
Another AFC. That's another AFC for you.
He's got a tough ass to.
He's got a tall order.
You talk about the Bills' receiving core being decimated. That's just
let's not talk. Yeah.
Drake May is the second one off the board, of course, the third overall pick this year by the Patriots, and then finally our third quarterback is going to be. We've just missed Bo Nix, I believe. It's bugging again. Geno Smith. That's an interesting, a weird trio, I must admit. You got Justin Herbert, Geno Smith, and Drake May. I think, to be honest,
probably a bit of an easier one. Yeah, probably a bit of an easier one. Like I think, obviously, we can apply the rookie rule again. So, unfortunately, I can't remember what you said off the top of my head.
Drake May.
There you go, Drake May. I really don't particularly see it with Drake May. I think they've just replaced Mac Jones with a slightly skinnier, slicker looking Mac Jones. For me, Geno Smith is the definition of mid. Like he is literally the most middle of the pack QB. He's not bad. Like he's really not bad. But what does he necessarily? What grabs you about him? Like he's essentially like a Gardner Minshew. Like he's that stopgap who's probably hung around for a bit too long because his franchise haven't found the next guy yet. Like that really is it. Do you know what I mean? And the Seahawks have always again been like that team that like runs the ball well and plays defense. You slot someone in. And yeah, I think Justin Herbert, again, another AFC, like he is absolutely quality. Loses Staley, which is probably for the better of him. I know obviously they've lost a lot of talent. Like Mike Williams, again, couldn't stay healthy, but he was legit. Keenan Allen, I mean, the guy's about to push 35 or whatever. But yeah, and I think Joe Alt selection at 5th overall probably reflects exactly what Harbaugh wants to do, which is go, we're back to old school football. You're going to be a much, much better JJ McCarthy. It's basically what he said.
Wow,
I'm not going to ask you to throw the ball 50 times a game. I'm going to ask you to do it 30 times a game. But, we're just not going to expect you to have to throw for 5 touchdowns a game to make us win the game, because Brandon Staley gives up 50 points every game and every game has to be a shootout. That's probably what's going to happen realistically. And I think Herbert, he's probably got one of the highest ceilings. He's still quite young, I think, as well. I think it's like 25, maybe 24. He's pretty young.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these ones we've done. I mean, Smith, I do fear he's probably slightly living off one season. I think that if he didn't have that one season with his first year as a Seahawks,
COVID year as well. I think he might have been the COVID year.
No, I believe it was 2022. I believe. So I think the COVID year, I got a feeling he was not even with the. Got a feeling he was with the
could have been Russ. That could have been Russ's year.
I remember that year because I remember that year very well because I was at the time furloughed at work and unemployed. But I watched the entire season. I got a job again in January. I spent 3 months unemployed, watching all the games. I remember that year, Russell Wilson.
Peak unemployment, isn't it? Yeah, just every NFL game.
Oh, it was great. I also know there's no fans, but it was every Sunday it was red zone until midnight. Record the game, watch it the next morning with no work to worry about. It was great.
Yeah, I'd have gone completely overboard, Andy. I'd have just watched the whole thing and gone, well, what have I got to wake up for? I'll just sleep into 3 o'clock the next day.
I did think that, but I'm a morning guy. I'm not a night owl at all. So for me, I was towards the end. Every Sunday I would struggle to stay awake towards the end.
You're a different man to me, Andy. You're a different man. I've grown a lot since then, but furlough was an interesting time.
I did it.
I've
seen you at McDonald's at 2 a.m. I think I see exactly what goes on.
PG podcast. I think Geno Smith is probably. I think you're right. He's just riding his luck a little bit, isn't he? Be interesting, obviously, with the changeover of management over there. Pete sort of stepping into that GM role. I don't know how much of a GM role it is, but probably just getting his pockets lined a little bit more to sort of stick around and make sure that nothing goes nuclear. But I think they've got to move on at some point. And the thing is, like, there's this risk. You've got to risk it. Like, Pat Mahomes is a massive risk. Yeah, like if you just accept middle of the pack, right? Yes, you're more than likely not going to suck, but I can almost promise you, you're also not going to win the Super Bowl. Right? Like, you look at the Super Bowl winning teams, how many of them have got some middle of the pack? Like, look, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's been to 2 Super Bowls now and hasn't. Well, no, sorry. He's been to 1 Super Bowl and he hasn't won it. But then before, who do they have? Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo are Geno Smith, basically. Like, they're middle of the pack. Well, they are. They're middle of the pack guys.
Jimmy Garoppolo, yes, but I think Brock Purdy has done more in big games, and I think those two combined. But just quick point I want to go back to as well. I do remember that COVID year. You mentioned Russell Wilson. I remember there was a game against the Vikings. I think they were wearing that lime green jersey, and the Vikings. I think he had this I think it was the 4th quarter. I want to say it was like the 2-minute warning that it had gone or something, and it was just an amazing 90-yard drive from Russell Wilson. I remember that was that was an amazing drive, but Smith for me, absolutely middle of the road. I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's good. Right, next week to turn up, we've still got. Here he is, the man we didn't want. Deshaun Watson is the first man off the board. Glad to finally get him out of the way. Next, I used to love him before the stuff came out. I used to love watching him play. Next one is the Poker King in Will Levis. He is off the board. I don't know. Did you see that, by the way? His he called the flop on this poker game, and he called the next card. It was just an amazing piece of television. Oh, it was amazing. Daniel Jones. Oh God, this is a bit of a.
This is an interesting one, and not for the competitive reasons. They're all pretty. That's pretty difficult to separate out. I mean. I was at the Ravens Titans game last year in London, and I'm quite a big fan of Levis. You see what he did when he came in. He's had some big games, and let's not forget, like, that Titans team is in pretty bad shape. Like, it's bad, right? Obviously, he's got a fresh start this year. Vrabel gone, completely new identity. No Derrick Henry anymore. The O-line is basically stitched together by whatever they've got. Best player apparently is DeAndre Hopkins at 35 years old. The Cardinals let go for a ham sandwich. And then I'm really quite high on him. I mean, Daniel Jones is quite evidently cut. He's absolutely abysmal. And then Deshaun Watson. Now I'm gonna say start Levis, bench Watson, and cut Daniel Jones. That's gonna be mine. Yeah. Like even if you take away the off the field stuff, right? Even if you just completely football player only, right? Okay, Watson has stunk since that Browns move, like really stunk. I just don't, and let's not like pretend like that Browns roster isn't any good. That Browns roster is quality. There's some really good stuff on there. Like defensively, got probably arguably the best pass rush duo in the league, right? It's got a good secondary. You look at the offense, that's a quality O-line, right? They've got some decent options in the receiver room. They've got Nick Chubb there as well. Like there is some talent on that Browns roster. Let's not pretend that, he's dealing with some scrubs and he's trying to pull them up or whatever. Like he's not been it for me at all since that move.
Absolutely. I remember you mentioned Titans, Ravens in London. I remember going with my dad to watch the Texans against the Jags, and that is still for me to this day the best individual performance I've seen of any player, let alone quarterback, in any game I've seen live. And I've been to all these games in America, and that still stands for me as the best performance I've seen. He was unbelievable that game. They won by so many points, and I said it before, but I used to love watching him. He was probably my favorite quarterback before the stuff came out. When he was in Texas, that was 2018, 2019 sort of time when he lost the Chiefs in the division round. That sort of it, I used to love watching him play. Yeah, the celebration was great as well. I used to love Watson, but then now it's so bad that I would not even want him anywhere near me. And for that reason, I'm not even cut for that reason alone. I just can't have anyone with that much PR against them and that much negative sort of connotations behind them. I just don't want anyone in my team. I think it's bad for team morale. And it's not as if
distraction at the very least, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as if you mentioned Suarez before. It's not as if he's playing like he was in 2019 and having this thing. You could almost somewhat allow it, but he's not even playing well. And so I think for me, even though Jones is probably a worse quarterback, I think Jones offers far less negative reputation.
Yeah.
And then I think it's an easy start as well for, I've forgotten who the quarterback is now.
Levis, yeah.
Even though Levis me is, I don't think he has done enough for me yet.
I'm really rooting for him. I'm really rooting for him.
Like, I love him as a person. I think he's got great.
This is it. Like, I think between the personality thing, sat in the green room, second round pick, has a bit of a humble, whatever. Like, but even during the draft process, I didn't think he was like this massively cocky guy or whatever. Like, he's an absolute unit. He can absolutely bomb it. He's fun to watch. Like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of mistakes, but he's entertaining to watch. Like, it's watchable football with him, even on like what is, ultimately an absolute stinking roster with no talent around. Like, it's fun to watch him play. And I really root for him. I really, really do root for him. Certainly over the other two.
Absolutely. I love Levis. And actually, fun story, I've been in the same company as Levis. I remember when I went to Titans training day,
of course,
we were being dragged around because no one seemed to know where the hell we were going for this training session. None of the staff seemed to know where any of the media went to go. Certainly, this is all not far before I bumped into Derrick Henry. But I remember he just walked past Levis, and just that was a really weird, surreal moment for me. But I must warn you, I didn't see any mayonnaise in sight, so it didn't get the full Will Levis experience. But he seems like a great guy to me. I mean, he seems like just a very. I think if he had a ranking list of quarterbacks you'd want to go for a beer with, or quarterbacks you'd want to, hang out with for an evening, and I think he's up there. I think Baker's up there.
It's easy to root for him. It's easy to root for him, isn't it? Like, he makes it easier.
Yeah. Unlike a certain quarterback that I've cut in this list just then. Right, next three coming up. Still got a lot of good quarterbacks left here. First up, okay, so we haven't got a good. Oh, is it going to be him? First one, Derek Carr, not quite having his best time at the moment. of course, on the Saints. Next up, we've still got Tua, Dak, Goff, still got Kyler, your boy. And here we are. We've got the first overall pick from this year. We've got Caleb Williams. And then finally, our final quarterback is going to be, so we've got Carr of the Saints, we've got Caleb Williams of the Bears, and we've got Kirk Cousins of the Atlanta Falcons. Ollie, where'd you go with this one?
It's going to have to be start Kirk. I think obviously what he's done in the league recently, he's proven himself as is indicative of the contract that he's got. People don't just hand that money out willy-nilly, as bad as the Falcons front office is. There was obviously some competition elsewhere as well. I know we've got this rookie rule, but Caleb's the only one who's probably tempting. And if there was a Gardner Minshew in this rotation or someone or a Bryce Young, I probably would put Caleb over them. But, Derek's probably just done enough, right? I think Derek Carr's I wouldn't be surprised if Spencer Rattler finishes the year for the Saints, having just been drafted in the 5th. I really wouldn't be. He has been stinking since he's been with the Saints. He was essentially chased out of Vegas, right? He's joined the Saints. He's not been very good. What have you done for me? Are you going to take us to the promised land? Probably not. Let's take a punt on Spencer Rattler, see what he can do. And then Caleb. Again, it's all this pressure until you actually do something with it, And I think the thing with Caleb as well is there really an excuse now? The roster, so much investment has gone into that roster now, especially on an offense side. He's got 9th overall. He's got can't remember the receiver's name off the top of my head out of Washington. There you go, didn't they? He's got, they've put some serious investment in there. Keenan Allen's he's not obviously Keenan Allen of old, but he's still something. Cole Kmet is another one, decent defense. They've invested heavily in that. So he's not walking into, a Titans roster like we've just said or whatever. There's some talent there again. So see what he can do.
Yeah, I think you look at, for most years, your first overall pick for a reason because the team picking you isn't very good. But it's a different situation, obviously, with the Panthers trade. How many quarterbacks get to go first overall pick to a 7-win team from the previous year? You've got Keenan Allen, you've got DJ Moore there, you've got Cole Kmet, you've got DeAndre Swift.
DJ Moore, forgot about DJ Moore. Yeah, they're pretty loaded, to be fair.
It's a good team, and I question the head coach, but look at the team around him, and I think defense will be the issue over offense this year. But I think you look at Bryce Young and the awful situation he was put in, and there's other quarterbacks. Malik Willis got put in a bad situation, really, whereas Caleb is put into. I don't think I've seen a better
Chicago this year. If Caleb is half as good as advertised, they could probably get to 10 wins. And
I agree.
Yeah, 100%. Sleepwalking almost into the playoffs, realistically. You look at the rest of that AFC North. It's tough. They've got obviously the Lions. They've got the Packers as well. That's pretty much it, though, isn't it? Realistically, who else is in the AFC North? You've got I've really been tested on this. Minnesota, who again they're up in the air. Do you know what I mean? Who knows? I think 10 wins is pretty achievable. What you're telling me that after all these changes, after everything, the promised land that Caleb Williams is, you can't get 3 more wins than a Justin Fields led Chicago team. Something's probably not adding up. So high hopes over there. High hopes.
Yeah, I think Williams, he gets a lot of bad rep, but I actually love his personality. I think he's a breath of fresh air, and let's not forget that, Jim McCarthy wasn't exactly, he was a bit of a maverick as well. He wasn't exactly a boring character thing that I think the city will love him. Dennis Rodman, Derek or Dennis Rodman, the same thing there. I think they love a personality. I think Caleb Williams, he seems really invested in the team. He's doing all the bear crawl stuff.
Yeah, of course.
I think he's a guy I really like rooting for.
My biggest question mark, honestly, with him is playing in those conditions over in Chicago. He's played in Oklahoma and he's played in California. Right, he's had it pretty easy going. When it's when Soldier Field turns into a wet Mona Lisa display with the rain, will he be able to do something with it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's a big thing, and the same thing was really bought of Jared Goff when he came into the league. The fact that he was a Cowboy, played Cal College, and then he goes to the Rams, and then obviously goes to Detroit. And obviously when
they're indoors though as well, but it's playing in that division. Like it's a nasty division. Like Lambeau's no joke in October, December, right?
Oh my God, it's. I mean, I've been to Lambeau in November, and it is cold. I mean, I know the players are walking around, but they're taking the hits. They're taking these massive hits. And I played football as a kid in school in cold days where the ball just grazes your backside of your leg. And it stings. It stings.
Yeah, of course it does. Now imagine you've got 250, 300-pound guys absolutely leathering you. Yeah, like it's going to be interesting. It is going to be interesting. I think as well, like something that's not necessarily that well talked about with Caleb is like he's not actually a massive guy. Like he's not that big. Like I think he's like half an inch taller than a Baker Mayfield.
Is it? I've not looked at him before.
He's not that big. I think officially he's listed at 6'1" and maybe like 210 or something like that. He's not massive. He's not this, behemoth guy.
Interesting. Okay, that's interesting to think. Now for my three, who's the third guy? Derek Carr, Caleb Williams. Who's the third guy we had?
Oh, that's a good question.
Throw me really off now. Joking me now.
No. We'll get there.
Oh, who was the third guy?
Caleb, Derek. It was someone good. Oh, Kirk.
Oh, Kirk. Okay, so I'm going to go for Kirk starting. I'm going to cut Derek Carr. I think that Derek Carr for me.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I just don't think he is that good anymore. I think the Raiders Carr, I would have maybe, especially that year in 2021, I would have maybe had him. Maybe even starting over Kirk Cousins, but
we're talking like Oakland Derek Carr. We're not even talking like Las Vegas Derek Carr. Let's be honest with ourselves. Like that's what we're talking
year he had before his injury. That year he had where he was an MVP contender, wasn't he? That was one of my first years watching the NFL. And I remember him just being really, really good, and then it hasn't really been, apart from 1 year since, hasn't really been the same for him, is it really? And then Caleb Williams, I really like him. I think that. I know we're cheating a little bit here with unlike the other rookies, but I think he provides you a future. He provides you, and I think he's a very marketable player as well. But I think for me, I love him as a person, and I think that he is going to be. I think especially with you look at Mahomes, how his first year starting, you have Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. I think Williams is going into a situation unlike a lot of rookie quarterbacks where you've got a really good team, good team around you.
Well, it's quite a dysfunctional organization, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no quarterback that's thrown for 4,000 yards. I know passing was
low stats. It's low. Yeah, it's great records. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if he doesn't break it, then I don't think anyone will. Especially with the team he's got around him. I think if he doesn't break that record,
unless Mahomes goes over just for a laugh, just to do it. That's probably best offer.
Yeah, maybe. It should have been him really at the Bears, Mahomes. You think about draft. Should have really been Mahomes, but
over Mitchell Trubisky, yeah. Oh
God! And I know we flagged him off before, but Deshaun Watson was there as well, and he was.
Yeah, there's some talent in that. There was some talent in that one, yeah.
And they took the worst one of the three. Right, we've got 6 quarterbacks left. We've got 2 more of these to go. So all these quarterbacks, apart from one, are well established in the league. And first one is your boy. You got Kyler Murray. He is first off the board. I'm guessing start. So it doesn't matter who's coming up next. It's going to
try and be impartial. I'll try and be impartial, Andy.
Right. Well, one guy could make it very easy if it is our final rookie. It is not. It's going to be always close between these two. Russell Wilson is the next quarterback, of course, the new quarterback of the Steelers. Some question whether he'll be the starter at the end of the year, but I personally think he will. And then finally, a very intriguing one if the rookie is taken. Oh, he's not taken out. That would have made a really good 3 if he. Jared Goff is the final one. I think.
See, I'd argue that's a bit that is tricky. I'm gonna instantly cut Russ because I just think he is on the decline of his career. Yeah, he really is on the decline of his career. You say if he's going to end up in there. I mean, the Steelers have got Justin Fields doing bloody running back drills, right?
That's crazy to me. That is insane.
This is what I mean. Like, and you're telling me that Russ is going to be potentially not starting at the end of the year. Like, that really speaks to where he's at. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. Look, the unbiased me puts Jared Goff at the top of the list, right? Because of what he's done, where he's at. He's done wonders for that Detroit team, that whole franchise. I think as well, like it's a really good story. Like chased out of LA, fell out of it, swapped with Stafford. It's one of the rarest QB swap for swaps. Everyone's happy. Do you know what I mean? Like it's really strange. So credit to him, and obviously a lot of it goes to Dan Campbell as well. They've built over there. I think Kyler might just be one of the most polarizing players in the NFL. He's got a lot of ardent supporters, and he's got a lot of just people hate him. Like the discourse around him is just it's lazy at this point. To be fair, I think it doesn't help. Obviously, like if we just look at how conversations go and how trends go in the NFL, like it's people who don't watch the games relying on people who do watch the games and what their opinions are, right? And people don't watch a lot of Cardinals football because we've not been very good for quite a while, right? He's 2 years removed from sort of like that MVP year, right? The self-implosion of the next year where you've got Cliff Kingsbury gone and bloody Steve Keim's roster building gone, right? And I'm sure we'll have another episode of me discussing the Cardinals as we look ahead to the year, so I won't dig too deep into it. But
that will be coming up. That will be coming up
in
July or August.
Yeah. I really think Kyler is trending in the right direction, but I think you've got to put him in the middle of the pack now. Like he is just literally, it's going to go one way or the other. And this year is make or break for him. It really is make or break for him, right? He hasn't had a 4,000-yard season. He's never completed 17 games, right? He's coming off the back of the ACL. And bear in mind, when he returned last year, like he was all right. He was decent, right? Okay. We were a top 10 offense when he was back, right? And a lot of that speaks to what he brings and how the run game is impacted by that. The emergence of someone like Trey McBride. He's now got MHJ. Like that offense is geared for him to do well, right? We talk about situations, some of these past guys that we've been in. I really think he's got to take off this year, and it's got to be a 4,000-yard season. It's got to be 30 touchdowns. Like he has to establish himself as someone who can do it, and he's really got to go to the playoffs for me at the very least. Otherwise, maybe there's conversations to be had at the end of the year that are tricky conversations, right? And that's for someone who absolutely loves Kyler, obviously in the Cardinals, and I think he's been dealt an incredibly poor hand since coming into the league with what you look at roster building and the organization as a whole. So with that said, I'm probably gonna have to, I know you're gonna be shocked by this. I'm gonna put Jared Goff as a start. I'm gonna put Kyler at bench, and I'm gonna put oh god, who even was the other one again?
I was struggling to think it myself. My memory is getting worse.
I'm the same. Honestly, I am the same. It's going through my head like a sieve. Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson.
That's it. Thank you. Yeah, I've had to get it up.
I'm going to do that. I am going to do that. I think by the end of the year, we're probably having a different conversation. I think with any luck, Kyler's above Jared. But yeah, we'll see.
I've got the same as you. I think with Goff, I think he's got the most, a Super Bowl appearance. He's got an NFC Championship appearance last year. And I think whilst he's not the most polished quarterback, I think there's definitely, other quarterbacks that could do a better job. I think he's good for where he is. I think he's really done well to reestablish himself in Detroit, where he was sort of almost like seen as, when he made that trade with the Rams, he was seen as this hot piece of garbage. People thought he was
cast off. Like, and that's just not what he is ultimately. Like, he's still been a number one overall pick, right? Like, he's still been like, that's talent. Like, bear in mind when people pick people that high in the draft, right? They've picked because they've got the tangibles, the talent, it's on display. You don't just accidentally go one because you're a nice guy and you do well in the interviews. You've got to have like that athletic ability to justify that kind of stuff. You look at where Jared probably sits in the rankings. Just for me, like he's above a Jalen. Hurts. He's above Baker Mayfield, obviously. He's probably above Purdy for myself. Like, he had a really good year last year. Like, he's probably a Kirk Cousins kind of guy. Like, you could argue anywhere from top 10 to 8-7 kind of spot for someone like a Jared Goff. Like, with what they did in Detroit, like, he really did, played well within the system. Like, and like I say, he's been to the Super Bowl. He lost to Tom Brady. Like, that was like probably one of the worst Super Bowls of however many last years. Like, it stunk, that one. I think it was like 13-6, wasn't it, or something like that. It was awful. Like, really good. He's done well. Like, he's had a solid career. They've just given him a new extension, was it? I think I saw. Yeah. Was that last year, maybe? Yeah.
Like, I think it was literally like last week or week before last. This will be released a week after we record this, but can't say it's been certainly less than a month ago.
Yeah, like, he's a good QB. There's probably very few guys who sit above him. Again, like, he's probably benefit from an NFC conference that is pretty rancid for QB play, realistically. But I think you put him on some other teams, like, he's still going to do numbers for you. You put him on any other playoff team, he probably gets you to the Super Bowl, I reckon. Like, and I really mean that. Like, you put him on maybe even like a Baltimore, like, he probably plays pretty well in Baltimore. Like, the Bills.
Maybe.
Yeah, Niners. Like, I would take him over Brock Purdy. Absolutely.
Yeah,
like, I think he's done more in the league than he has. Like, he's really so criminally underrated for me. And so is Kyler. Like, but Kyler just needs to do a bit more and has suffered, I think, quite heavily from, his talent is clearly there. Like, he dragged Cliff to where he was, and Cliff has ridden his back for a long time. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. And I think, like, again, not to go too deep into the deep dive in the Cardinals, like, they've been well positioned this year. They've made the sustainable decisions, the right decisions. They've cut 2 expensive players who haven't been doing a lot for them. Hopkins gone, Simmons gone. Like, you've got to perform to be on this team, and there's a good work ethic in there. So we'll see. I think there's some exciting weapons on that Cardinals team, and I know it's a bit of a bias, but like James Conner, Marvin Harris Jr., Trey McBride, like, there's some good stuff over there.
Yeah, and this is why I had Kyler over Russell Wilson in my bench and cut thing, because you look at Kyler's best season as a Cardinal. Who's he have?
Another MVP conversation we were having with him.
Yeah, and who was its receiver then? Hopkins. Whereas Hopkins gone, not the same, obviously injured last year as well. So now he's got Harrison Jr., who is what I think one of the best receiver prospects in years.
Oh, yeah.
Have him there. You mentioned McBride. I think Connor is a really underrated running back. Got that as well. I think that, it gives him a good chance. And I think, especially with someone as young as Harrison Jr., Murray's still been fairly young. I think that's a good future there. You could hope for maybe like an Allen and Diggs sort of rise from Murray, or like when Tua got Tyreek, or when whatever happens with players, these quarterbacks, when they get these elite receivers, or no guarantee Harrison will be elite, but I think you give them a chance.
You'd put good money on it. Yeah, you'd put good money on it, but yeah.
On paper, but you think, but at least they're giving him a chance. They're giving him the guy the chance. They're getting him as the guy receiver that obviously everyone wanted as the number one receiver.
And look, they could have moved off of Kyler last year, right? It would have been so easy for new GM, new head coach. QB's got a torn ACL, probably gonna have a high draft pick. Good QB options in the draft. They could have so easily just gone, we're not going to play you for the last 10 games, Kyler, or 8 games. This is the end of the road. Good luck with it all. They see something in him. They believe in him. They think they can do something with him. And like I say, he played fairly well towards the end of last year. He's now healthy. He's had a full off season. He's working with his guys. It's going to be interesting. And in a division that's got Geno Smith in it, and, are the 49ers going to have that hangover again from the Super Bowl? Where are the Rams going to be? Like, I think they're on the rise personally, but it's going to be an interesting division. Like, it's probably not the best division in football like it was in years past, but it's going to be a competitive one.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of competitive, we were all almost set for a really competitive final 3 before Goff got taken. We got Tua, we've got Dak, and if we just had Bo Nix taken, it could have been Goff, Prescott. And I think
it's Goff, still competitive. Still competitive for me.
I think if Goff was there, I think it could have been a really, really interesting 3. Yeah, really. But instead, it is Bo Nix alongside Dak and Tua. I think Bo Nix is easy. I think put him in cut. I'm not convinced of him really.
I'm not. I think it's quite a desperate. I think it's quite a desperate ploy from.
Yeah.
Do you know what's crazy as well? Like this conversation about Zach Wilson and you saying him getting extra chances. He's the same age as Bo Nix.
Is he? Oh
He's
my god!
Got 3 seasons. He's got 3 seasons under his belt, and he's the same age as Bo Nix.
That's insane.
Yeah, Bo Nix spent about 7 years in college. Auburn, Oregon. He just went all over the place. He's just touring, riding his luck out. I don't understand what Sean Payton's doing. I really don't. Yeah, there's been some interesting decision making there. I think probably rode quite a bit of success off the back of Drew Brees. Like, there's been some good guys over there. I don't know. We'll have to see. But you're absolutely right. Obviously, he's gonna go at the bottom. And again, he's not particularly going into a great situation, so that's going to be an interesting one to see. Which I think is why, actually, to be honest, I think Zach Wilson probably starts. I really do. I think, you look at it. If Zach Wilson goes in and stinks, they get a high draft pick. Bear in mind, this is the first year after the rush trade they're going to have their first overall pick themselves, right? Again, yeah. Because obviously this last one was someone, I can't remember who else's it was, but it wasn't. I think it was Miami's even. It might have been. But anyway, it wasn't there. So this year they'll have it, right? They're in control of their own draft pick technically. Do you do that sort of Mahomes, Alex Smith thing where you just go, Zach Wilson, see what you can do, right? See if you can prove to another team that you're worth a starting job. Have a crack at it. If you stink, we've got nothing to lose. We get a better draft pick. Next year, we put Bo Nix in, right? And so you see how that goes. I think that probably is something that could happen. Then Tua and Dak.
Basically, for me, they're pussy. They're the same quarterback.
I would agree, but I'm just much lower on both of them than I think you probably are. Like, I really don't actually rate Tua and Dak that much, and I'd be interested to see your QB rankings. Like, Tua is not a top 10 QB for me.
No, I actually have a lot of Dolphin fans who don't like my views on Tua. I don't think he's it at all. Personally, I don't think
he's it at all. I think there's so many guys you could put in that situation and would go off as well.
Oh my god! I mean, you give me Tyreek Hill.
Jared Goff in there. I think you go to the Super Bowl if you've got Jared Goff at the helm.
Yeah, potential at least winning a playoff game. I mean,
100%.
Nate, I mean, he's been in the league enough times now. I know there's been a lot of Dolphins fans that are going to curse my head now because there's a lot of mixed opinions on him on socials. But for me, if you take away the Ravens game, have you seen Tua in a big game, in a big moment, down the stretch especially?
Yeah, that's the big thing. I weirdly, I looked at Tua's stats the other day, right? Okay, and it's all at the start of the year against beating up on bum defenses. Like he had 460 yards against the Chargers or something like that. Like in week 1, and it's like, yeah, well done, really well done. Like, don't get me wrong, not everyone's doing that, but come on, no one's giving you, props of beating up the primary school kid. Like, it was awful. And you're right. Look down the stretch. Like, he goes against teams who are contenders, legit guys playing their best football. No show. Absolutely no show. Like,
every single time. I mean, there was the Bills game 2 years ago in the snow, week 14. I think it was the first week back for America for me. That game, he was good. I'll give him that. And that was a big hit down the stretch. When you look at, I know he was injured at that concussion thing, but the Packers game.
Yeah, he has had some issues with that, hasn't he? He's slimmed down a lot as well. I think he's seeing some stuff coming out this week. I think Waddle said I miss Fat Tua to him.
Yeah, Fat Tua was something else. But, for me, it's like, you can blame the O-line all you want, but I mentioned Burrow getting to Super Bowl with a bad O-line. You look at, he had the most receiving yards, but you look at his touchdowns, and that's the most important thing to me, because yards don't necessarily mean touchdowns.
Yeah, if it was yards, then Tua would be, the best QB, and it's just not how it works. And also, let's be realistic. He's got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They're 2 guys who you could throw a 5-yard pass to, and they'll rip it for 90. They've got that run after the catch kind of ability that is very rare amongst the rest of the league. Again, I just think it's that thing like, McDaniels is obviously quite an interesting guy. He's a quirky guy, but he knows his ball, and he's pretty good on offense. Like, he knows what he's doing. Who would you swap him out for? Like, I think you could put most people in and they do a decent job, if not the same job as Tua. Do you know what I mean? So it'd be interesting, especially like contracts coming up and stuff like that, what they're prepared to give him, what they're prepared to do. Yeah, I mean, I think like I would say you've got to win the division. Have you got to win your division this year? Like you
It's
have
our
to.
best chance.
I think it is. Like we've just had that conversation about the Bills where they're at. You've got Old Man Rodgers and you've got newbie New England, right? This is your time to do it, right? I've seen as well, like it's interesting. Like there should be an unwritten rule that you've got to play against Miami in September because obviously it's hurricane season or whatever it is, and you've got to play against Buffalo in December because that's when you get the worst games. Like that should be the rule that if the Bills have to go to you guys in hurricane season, you have to go to them in blizzard season just to even it out.
Or even like when it's roasting hot, like I think we played in a couple of years in like week 3 when that happened.
I don't know how they do it. I've been to Florida. It sucks. It absolutely sucks.
It's like, so humid. That's
I don't know if we're just British. And like not built for it. It sucks so bad. Like having to like do the physical exertion of an NFL.
No. I mean, I actually might be going to Maui this year. The game against you guys. I'm up against the Cardinals. Yes. There's a fan club weekend that weekend, October 27th, and provided things go my way, I hope to be there.
Nice. That'd be awesome. And
I think for me, going back to the debate, first of all, also I didn't get to see much of Miami last year. It was a bit of we went to Florida Keys. I'm looking forward to seeing the actual bit of Miami, but. Going back to this is why for me I'd have Dak as starting and Tua bench because
I agree.
I think Dak is similar to Tua in terms of he can't win the big one, but for me I would have much more faith in Dak than Tua to win a game with.
I completely agree. I feel like, and it's probably a metric we probably should have used for the rest of this episode, but like 2-minute drill. Down 2 points or whatever it is, or down 4 points, you've got to score, you've got to come back. I'd rather have Dak doing it than Tua. I really would.
For me, the same, 1,000%. I don't think Dak wins your Super Bowls, but I think he's won playoff games, albeit against an old Tom Brady. But he's won playoff games in his career, and Tua hasn't, and he's not even been close. I mean, the Chiefs game, we weren't close at all. The Bills game the year before, he wasn't even playing. We won. We lost by 3 points against who's now a third choice quarterback, I think it's Scarlett Thompson, and he's done a better job than Tua. I know the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, but
of course, I'm just shocked by the levels of impartiality that me and you have shown between Tua and Kyler. Like that's incredible from us. So I think pat on the back for not just being homers and going for it. But we can settle our Tua Kyler argument when we play you.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting, and I think we'll know a lot more about both quarterbacks come that week. But I think it's our time because. Hill's mentioned he might be retiring after this season.
Yeah, come on. He's got too many kids. He needs more paychecks. I'm telling you. There's no way.
Well, I can't see us paying what the Vikings are just paying.
No, he's not getting 35 million. Like he'll throw his toys out the pram maybe. And look, like you've got Waddle on the roster as well. Like he'll just happily take over. That's absolutely fine, and you can just draft someone to fill in. Yeah, I mean, he probably gets maybe 20 odd million from the Titans will probably pick him up and pair him with DeAndre Hopkins.
That'd be quite a duo. But yeah, for me, it's just, I think I've said my piece on Tua. I've said it a lot of times on this podcast. I'm on my Dolphins podcast, the Finish Nation UK podcast. I've said it in enough group chats, my thoughts, and people don't seem to like my opinions about that. But it's how I feel, and I think that it reminds me a bit like when you.
And it'd be nice to be proved wrong. Like I think that's what a lot of people think. Like when as fans we are, it's not being critical or being a hater. It's just like a bit of realism with taking the blinkers off. And like people forget that like the fan part in you want to be proven wrong. Like everything I've just said, like I would love if he just comes out, just completely dominates, scores 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, and wins the Super Bowl. I'd be like, oh, I'm wrong. I don't care.
No,
do you know what I mean? Like, and it's the same with Tua. Like, if he goes out and actually smashes everything, you go, yep, I'm an idiot. What a moron. I'm happy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's, for me, I have the same thing as Darwin Núñez, is that there's one week I'm thinking, oh my God, this guy is good. I remember 2 against the Chargers.
Yeah, not many weeks I don't think with Darwin Núñez.
No. There's about a month where he was good this year. But funny enough, without Salah, funny enough. But, you look at week 1 Chargers, amazing. I thought, oh my God, he's playing well. And there's other times in the year where he was balling out. I remember the Commanders game, and there was other games where he was just amazing. And then there's other weeks where he just thinks out the bed. And I remember the Chiefs game actually wasn't too bad in the Germany one, but the
playoff one was,
and pretty much any game down the stretch. I mean, the Bills game final week, the Titans won. He managed to last the whole season. Fair enough to him. He actually managed to last the entire season, which
drag himself across the line.
Yeah. But it was almost like we had a chance to win that. We were 3 or 4 wins up in that division with certainly less than half the season to go. And when we bottled it towards the end, and that Titans loss will haunt me for a long time. That was a game we should have really won.
Easily.
But for me, I doubt he's listening. But if you are listening to, I really hope you do prove me wrong. And I'm hoping I love the guy. I really root for him. Yeah. But I'd have to be realistic.
He's a lovely human. Like, he's fantastic. But at the end of the day, it's a competitive league, and you need results. But I think he's strong.
Well, that is where we'll end the podcast for today. So once again, huge thank you to Ollie for coming on today.
No, thanks for having me, Andy. Always a good chat.
Always a pleasure, mate. We'll have you on again for our Cardinals season preview. These are starting. These will be released mid to late July, and they'll be running on then till the Sunday before the season begins. Mm. So we'll try again to have all 32 teams. We've pretty much got all the guests confirmed from last year. And they'll be on again. So,
must be doing something right, Andy. Must be doing something right. They're coming back.
Yeah, I think so anyway. Most have said yes. So I've done something right. But that is where we'll end it. And hope you all enjoyed this episode. And we will do a vote on our socials. We'll give the podcast a few days to sort of settle. Then we will put some votes out and give you guys a chance to say who you would start bench cut out of the 3 players we did in each segment. But this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I've been your host, as ever, Andy Davis. This has been Oliver Kemp, and we'll see you guys